The first thing I noticed was not the snow coming down outside her apartment window, or the smell of burnt garlic that had been hanging in the air for 20 minutes. It was my name on her laptop screen. Except it wasn't my name. The folder was called Joel, just in case. I stood there holding 2 mugs of tea I had just made in her kitchen, reading those 4 words like they were in a language I almost recognized. My brain kept sliding off them. Joel, just in case. Just in case of what? 2 minutes before that, everything had been completely ordinary. It was a Saturday in late November, the kind where the sky goes white by 2 in the afternoon, and the whole city gets quiet under it. Phoebe had her laptop open on the coffee table, and she was cross-legged on the couch in that oversized Carlton hoodie she had owned since second year, the one with the faded logo and the fraying cuff she kept chewing when she was thinking. She had asked me to grab her the tea that was steeping on the counter. She said the mug was on the left. I got both mugs because I had been standing in her kitchen long enough to know she always forgot to make one for herself. When I came back around the corner, she had stepped away from the couch toward the kitchen, probably going to help me, and the laptop was just sitting there open, screen facing me. Folder open on the desktop, Joel, just in case. She came around the doorframe and stopped when she saw my face. Not the folder, my face first. That was the part I kept thinking about later. Phoebe and I had been friends for 4 years. We met at a work thing, one of those awkward after-work mixers that nobody actually wants to go to, but everyone shows up for because it's easier than explaining why you didn't. She was standing near the back corner, with a glass of wine she clearly didn't want, looking at her phone with the focused expression of someone pretending to be very busy. I was doing the same thing 3 feet away. At some point we both looked up at the same moment and she said, deadpan, "Do you think if we both leave at the same time it's less suspicious?" I said I thought that was actually more suspicious. She said, "Yeah, but at least we'd have company." We left together, got poutine from a place around the corner, and talked for 2 hours about absolutely nothing. She had opinions about highway on-ramps and the correct way to load a dishwasher, and whether the second season of a show we both watched was better or worse than the first. We disagreed on all of it. It was the best conversation I had had in months. After that, it was just easy. The way some friendships are immediately easy. Like you skipped the awkward middle part and went straight to knowing each other. She knew I took my coffee black and hated the sound of keyboards with too much travel. I knew she could not function without a budget spreadsheet, kept 3 backup umbrellas around the city in case she forgot one, and that she stress-organized her kitchen when something was bothering her and didn't want to talk about it yet. We walked into each other's lives quietly and stayed. I had a key to her place because she locked herself out twice in one winter, and her building super was hard to reach. She had a drawer at my apartment with a phone charger, 2 granola bars, and an emergency $20 bill she put there herself without asking. My mom called her the sensible one at Christmas, which Phoebe said was the greatest compliment she had ever received. Everyone around us thought it was something else. Her coworker Meredith asked me once, at Phoebe's birthday dinner, how long we had been together. I said we weren't. Meredith looked at me like I had said something in a foreign language, and then very slowly looked at Phoebe and then looked back at me and said, "Okay," the way people say okay when they do not believe you at all. I told myself Meredith didn't know us. I was good at telling myself things like that. Standing in Phoebe's living room with 2 mugs of tea and a folder name I could not unhear, I realized I had been telling myself things like that for 4 years. She stopped in the doorway. She had seen me see the screen. I watched her figure it out in real time. The way her expression went from easy to careful to something else entirely. She crossed the room fast, not quite running, and clicked the laptop shut. Then she stood with her hand flat on top of it and looked at the coffee table like she was waiting for the floor to open. "That's," she said, and stopped. "Phoebe, I know. What's in it?" She closed her eyes for a second. Her hand was still on the laptop. "Nothing weird," she said. It's not a weird thing. It's just a folder. A folder with my name on it. People have folders, named after their friends." She made a face that meant she knew she wasn't winning this. "Can you put the tea down? You're going to spill it." I put both mugs on the coffee table and sat down on the couch and waited. She stayed standing. That was one of her things. When she was nervous, she needed to be vertical. She claimed she thought better on her feet. I had watched her pace around her kitchen 3 times before deciding what to order for takeout. "It's just documents," she said. "Like things I thought you might need someday, or that I'd want to have. I don't know." "It started as a joke." "What kind of documents?" She winced. "Like, okay, you mentioned once that your car insurance was coming up for renewal and you didn't know if you were getting a good rate. And I found this breakdown of the average rates in Ontario by age and driving record, and I saved it, because I thought it might be useful." I looked at her. "You made a folder. It's organized. You named it after me. I was going to rename it when. She looked at the ceiling. Outside, a streetcar went by, the sound of it muffled by the snow. That's a fair question, she admitted. What else is in it? She picked up her tea and held it with both hands, and stood there like she was deciding something. The warranty information for your dishwasher, she said. Because you threw out the manual and I knew you'd need it eventually. A list of walk-in clinics near your apartment that are actually good, because you always use the one on Dundas, and it's terrible and I've told you that. An article about the best hiking trails around Algonquin that I thought you'd like. She paused. A photo. I waited. From the cottage trip in August. The one where you fell off the dock. I didn't fall, I made a choice, you slipped. It was a considered slip. I looked at her. Why did you keep a photo from that? She stared into her mug. You were laughing when you came up out of the water. Like really laughing. I've never heard you laugh like that. The apartment was very quiet. The snow kept coming down outside, steady and soft. When did you start the folder? I said. She sat down then, not next to me, on the chair across the coffee table. She put her feet under her the way she always did. March, she said. I think, around when you helped me move the bookshelf. I remembered that. She had bought this enormous second-hand bookshelf from someone on Marketplace. And it was too big to go up the stairs at the angle she needed, and we spent 45 minutes tilting it different ways in the stairwell, while her downstairs neighbor watched from the landing with an expression of deep personal suffering. We got it up eventually. She made me dinner after, pasta which she was only mediocre at, and garlic bread which she was genuinely excellent at. That was 8 months ago, I said. I know. So for 8 months you've had a folder on your laptop with my name on it, and useful documents, Phoebe. She pulled the cuff of her sleeve down and held it in her palm. That was the thing she did when she was embarrassed. I knew it the same way I knew everything else about her, without having decided to learn it. When you left that night, she said slowly. I was washing the dishes, and I just started thinking about the car insurance thing, and I thought, I should find that for him. And then I found it and I thought, I should keep it somewhere. And then I made a folder and put it in, and named it after me. She looked at me directly for the first time since she shut the laptop. I was already thinking about you, she said. I didn't even notice I'd done it until after. I didn't know what to say to that. I picked up my tea. It was the right temperature now, not too hot. She always steeped it the right amount of time. That was such a small thing and I had never once commented on it. The photo though, I said. That's not a useful document. She looked away. No, she said, it's not. I waited. I look at it sometimes, she said quietly. When I'm having a bad day. My chest did something I chose not to examine immediately. And does it help? I said. The corner of her mouth moved. Yeah, she said. It actually does. I set my mug down carefully. Outside the snow was really coming now. The kind that settles fast and makes everything a few decibels quieter than usual. Her apartment felt smaller in a good way, the way it always did when the weather closed in and neither of us had anywhere to be. I had been in this apartment maybe 300 times. I knew that her radiator clicked when it first came on in the morning, and that the second drawer in her kitchen stuck if the humidity was high. I knew she had a library book she had renewed 4 times and still hadn't read, and that the plant by the window was alive, only because I watered it whenever I noticed it looking sad, which was fairly often. She knew that I kept the spare phone charger in my work bag, because I was irrationally afraid of running out of battery in public. She knew I talked too much when I was nervous and went completely quiet when something was actually wrong. And she was the only person who had ever clocked the difference without me explaining it. We had been standing 2 feet away from something for 4 years, and calling it by a different name. Can I ask you something? I said. You're going to anyway. The just-in-case part. What does that mean? She was quiet for a long moment, long enough that I heard the radiator click on, long enough that a taxi went by outside and the light from its sign swept across the ceiling. I think it means, she said, that I wanted to have something useful to give you. Like whenever you needed something, I wanted to already have it. She stopped. No, it sounds obsessive. It sounds like you. She looked up at that. You do that, I said. You think 3 steps ahead for people you care about. You booked your mom's ferry ticket for Thanksgiving because you knew she'd forget. You sent me a reminder about my lease renewal 6 weeks before I would have remembered. You're not obsessive. You're just, I tried to find the right word and the right word felt too large to say casually. You pay attention. Phoebe looked down at her hands. I pay more attention to some people than others, she said. I let that sit there. She laughed, but it came out unsteady. Not her normal laugh. Her normal laugh had a shape to it, a rhythm. This one was shorter, like she was trying to take up less space with it. This is very embarrassing, she said. I want to note that for the record. Noted. You could be less calm about it. Would that help? It would make me feel less weird. You're not weird, Joel. I have a folder. You have several folders. You're very organized. She pointed at me. Don't be charming right now. Is that what I'm doing? Yes, and it's annoying because I'm trying to be embarrassed, and you're making it harder. I looked at her. She had one sock on and one sock off for reasons I had long stopped questioning. Her hair was doing the thing it did on weekends, where it went slightly chaotic and she didn't bother with it. There was a small stain on the front of her hoodie, probably from lunch. She looked like a Saturday afternoon. She looked like the most familiar thing I knew. I said, I have your mom's banana bread recipe saved in my phone. She blinked. What? She gave it to me when I helped them move that armchair in September. I asked her to text it to me and she did and I saved it. I've made it twice. Phoebe stared at me. You've made my mom's banana bread. It's very good. I know it's very good. Why didn't you tell me? I was going to give it to you when you were having a bad week, like a thing I could bring over. I looked at my tea. I hadn't found the right week yet. She was very still on the other side of the coffee table. How long have you had that recipe? Since September. That's 3 months, Joel. I know. You've been holding a banana bread recipe for 3 months waiting for the right moment. It felt important to get the timing right. She covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes were doing something I hadn't seen before. Not quite tears, but close to it. That undone look that only appeared on the rare occasions she let her guard fully down. That's so stupid, she said. Her voice was a little rough. That's genuinely the most thoughtful stupid thing I've ever heard. Your folder has my dishwasher warranty. That's different. How? It's practical, so is banana bread. She laughed then, a real one, short and surprised, and pressed the back of her hand to her eyes quickly like she was trying to hide it. I gave her a moment. When she looked up again, the laugh was still in her expression, but the thing underneath it was still there too. Careful. Open. The version of Phoebe that showed up infrequently, when something mattered enough that she stopped being quick and clever about it. So, she said. So, I said. What do we do with this? I had been thinking about that since the moment I read the folder name. The easy thing would have been to say something gentle and pivoting. The safe thing would have been to let us both laugh it off and move to something else, and file the whole afternoon, under things we didn't say directly. I had done that kind of thing before. I was good at it. I was tired of being good at it. I think, I said, that we stop pretending it's a coincidence. That I have your mom's recipe and you have a folder with my car insurance rates and we both know when the other one is having a bad week before anyone says a word about it. Phoebe was quiet. Meredith asked me at your birthday if we were together, I said. And I said no, and she looked at me like I was missing something obvious. And I drove home thinking about it and then I went to bed and didn't think about it again. Because it was easier not to. I know, she said softly. She asked me about it too. What did you say? I said you were my best friend. That's true, I know. She picked at the fraying cuff of her hoodie. I also know it's not all of it. The radiator clicked again. The snow outside was thick now, the streetlights making it orange on the way down. Her apartment smelled like tea and that candle she kept on the windowsill, the one that smelled like cedar and something sweet I could never identify. I used to date people, I said, and spend the whole time thinking about things I wanted to tell you. She looked up. Not in a... I stopped. Tried again. Not as a comparison. More like, something would happen and my first instinct was to reach for my phone and tell you about it. And I'd be with someone who genuinely liked me and I'd still be thinking, Phoebe would have something to say about this. Phoebe would laugh at that. I shook my head. That's not fair to anyone. Phoebe was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice careful. I stopped trying to date people about a year ago, she said. I kept telling myself I was just busy. Work was a lot, the apartment stuff. My mom being sick in the spring. She paused. But I think I was also just... She looked at the covered laptop. You're kind of hard to follow. I felt something in my chest shift, warm and a little frightening. The folder makes more sense now, I said. She laughed, short and honest. Yeah, I want to see the photo. She looked at me for a second. Then she opened the laptop and found it and turned it around. It was from August, the dock, exactly like she said. I was soaking wet, half out of the water, and I was laughing. I didn't remember what at. Probably nothing. Probably just the surprise of the cold water in the sky, and the fact that it was a good day. I didn't recognize the expression on my own face, not exactly. It looked unguarded in a way I didn't usually see in photos of myself. You kept this, I said. I told you. Bad days. I looked at it for a moment longer, then at her. Take a new one, I said. She tilted her head. What? Take a better one. For the folder. I held out my hand. Give me your phone. She handed it over slowly, like she wasn't sure where I was going. I moved to sit beside her, not all the way across the coffee table anymore. Close enough that she turned slightly to look at me, and held the phone up, camera facing us. Joel, just. I waited. She looked at the camera, then at me, then back. There was a smile starting that she was clearly trying to suppress. the kind that fought its way through whether she wanted it to or not. I took the photo. She grabbed the phone back and looked at it for a second without saying anything. "Well," she said finally, "put it in the folder." She glanced sideways at me. "The folder does have a better name now. In my head. What's it called?" She didn't answer right away, but she was smiling, small and real, and she didn't move away. We were close enough that her shoulder was almost against mine, and the space between us felt different from every other Saturday afternoon we had spent on that couch. Same couch, same snow outside. Different air entirely. "Not just in case," she said. I let out a breath. "Okay, more like." She thought about it. "Definitely." Something in me that had been braced against something for 4 years quietly let go. We sat like that for a while without trying to make it into something bigger than it already was. She leaned slightly against my shoulder at some point and I didn't move. Outside, the snow kept coming down. Her radiator kept its rhythm. The cedar candle burned low and steady on the windowsill. Later she made dinner. Something with lentils and roasted sweet potato that she had made 3 times before and gotten right this time. And we ate it at her small kitchen table with the overhead light on because it was dark by 5 now. And the windows were just black mirrors showing us back to ourselves. We talked about work and her mum's visit in December, and whether there was any point shoveling before a storm was fully finished. She stole a piece of my bread without asking, which she had done 100 times, and this time when she glanced up with that small defiant look I laughed and said nothing, and she smiled into her plate. Nothing was different and everything was different, in the way that only happens when you finally say out loud the thing that's been true for longer than you tracked. I went home late. The snow had settled 2 inches on the front steps, and I stood on the sidewalk for a minute before I brushed off my car, just looking up at the orange city sky and breathing cold air. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a photo, the one from the couch, with a message underneath. Updated the folder. Also renamed it. I texted back. "What to?" She took a minute. "Joel. No just in case anymore." I sat in my car for a while with the heat running and the windows slowly clearing and the streetlights making small halos in the falling snow. I thought about a recipe saved in my phone since September. A folder full of things someone kept just to be useful to me. 8 months of paying attention that had nowhere to go, going somewhere now. I drove home through the quiet streets. There was almost no one out. The city was soft under the snow, the way it gets when a Saturday night stays home. 3 weeks later, she came over for dinner and brought the banana bread, made from her mum's recipe, which she said she'd had all along and never mentioned because she was waiting for the right week. I asked her when she'd decided that week was a good one. She said she'd been deciding since August. I thought about a photo of a man laughing at nothing in a lake, saved in a folder, taken out on bad days. I thought that was probably when I had started deciding too and simply hadn't named the folder yet.